to today's yoga bodyweight fusion session. I'm going to go ahead and start with getting a little bit of mobility in my back using my yoga wheel. And this is just something good to do to warm up. If you don't have a yoga wheel, I highly suggest getting one. And just feeling a few pops in this position. This really helps with spinal alignment. And they can be used for flexibility as well. It's a really great tool to have. And it is great for your spine. So let's go ahead and get started with some sun salutations. We're going to go ahead and begin with our arms overhead. Breathing in, swan diving into a forward fold. Coming up to halfways. Coming back down. Walking our hands forward into plank. Bending our elbows to come into hovering, where only the palms of our hands, the balls of our feet, and our toes are in contact with the mat. Nothing else. Coming up into upward dog. Tucking our toes underneath for downward facing dog. And here we're going to pedal the feet. Trying to get our heels as close to the mat as we can. From here, we're going to step our right foot forward to come into a lunge. You can have your hands overhead, or you can have them here at your waist, whichever you prefer. Bringing our arms back down, we're going to bring that right foot back. We're going to bring that left foot forward, coming into a lunge. And again, you can also place your hands on your waist. Bringing our hands down to the mat, coming back into downward facing dog. Stepping one foot forward, the other foot meets it, forward fold. And slowly rolling up. All right, so bringing our arms up overhead. Swan diving into a forward fold. Coming up into halfways. Coming back down into that forward fold. Walking our hands forward into plank. Bending at the elbows to come into hovering. Coming into upward dog. Tucking our toes underneath for downward facing dog. And pedaling the feet. Stepping our right foot forward to come into a lunge. You can have your hands overhead, or you can have your hands at your waist. Bringing our hands back down to the ground, we're going to step that right foot back, step that left foot forward, coming into a lunge. Really reaching to the sky, or having our hands on our hips. Bringing our hands back down to the ground, coming back into downward facing dog. We're going to lift that right leg up, then the left, the right, then the left. And we're going to flow with this position. Stepping one foot forward, the other foot meets it, forward fold. And slowly rolling up. We're going to come into that chair flow. So reaching our arms back and coming into chair. Getting that nice opening in our chest as we bring our arms back behind us. Just a few more. And we're going to go back to sun salutations. So going ahead, lifting our arms up overhead, swan diving into a forward fold, coming up for halfways, back into that forward fold. We're going to walk our hands forward into plank, coming into hovering, where again, only the palms of our hands, the balls of our feet, and our toes are in contact with the mat, nothing else. Coming into upward dog, holding in this position for just a moment, really trying to lower our shoulders, bringing them back, tucking our toes underneath for downward facing dog. We're going to pedal the feet. We're going to step that right foot forward, coming into a lunge. Taking nice deep breaths, nice and slow. Bringing our hands back down to the mat, bringing that right foot back, stepping that left foot forward, and coming into a lunge. Bringing our hands back down to the mat, stepping that left foot back, coming back into downward facing dog. Stepping one foot forward, the other foot meets it, forward fold. And slowly rolling up. Another sun salutation, raising our arms up overhead. Swan diving into a forward fold. Coming up into halfways. Coming back down into that forward fold. Walking our hands forward into plank. Coming into hovering. Coming into upward facing dog. Tucking our toes underneath for downward facing dog, where we're going to pedal the feet. Really trying to bring those heels as close to the mat as we can. Maybe you already can because you have a lot of flexibility and mobility in your calves, and that is awesome. Stepping that right foot forward, coming into a lunge. From here, we're going to turn our bodies and come into a forward fold with a straddle position. We're going to go ahead and turn to the left so we can get into a lunge on the left leg. You can hear the birds chirping. Really enjoying this nice routine that is completely free flow. Turning back to the center, coming back into that forward fold with the straddle leg positioning. Coming back into a lunge on the right-hand side. This time we're going to go ahead and bring our hands up overhead, really reaching for the sky while keeping our shoulders down. Bringing our hands into prayer position, we're going to go ahead and twist, bringing our left elbow to the outside of our right thigh, aiming to have our hands at the center of our chest. Coming back with our hands up overhead. Coming back into that straddle leg, forward fold. Turning to our left-hand side, coming into that lunge with our hands overhead. Bringing our hands into prayer position, we're going to go ahead and bring that right elbow to the outside of our left thigh, aiming to have our hands in the middle of our chest, getting a nice twisted lunge prayer. Bringing our hands up, back overhead. This can be a balance challenger. And coming back to the center in that straddle position for a forward fold. We're going to come to the right hand side. Then to the left. Right hand side. Then to the left. Coming to the center, forward fold. And slowly rolling up. We're going to come back into that chair flow. So bringing arms back and coming into chair. Just a few more. And we're going to come into mountain pose. Taking a few deep breaths. And coming back into sun salutations, raising our arms up overhead, swan diving into a forward fold, walking our hands forward into plank, bending at our elbows to come into hovering, coming into upward facing dog, tucking our toes underneath for downward facing dog, walking our hands in towards our feet, forward fold, and slowly rolling up, bringing our hands up overhead, swan diving into a forward fold, walking our hands forward into plank, bending at our elbows for hovering, coming into upward facing dog, tucking our toes underneath for downward facing dog, walking our hands in towards our feet, forward fold, and slowly rolling up, bringing our hands up overhead, swan diving into a forward fold, walking our hands forward into plank, bending at the elbows to come into hovering, coming into upward facing dog, tucking our toes underneath for downward facing dog, walking our hands in towards our feet, forward fold, and slowly rolling up. We got 3 more. Raising our hands up overhead, swan diving into a forward fold, walking our hands forward into plank, coming into hovering, coming into upward facing dog, tucking our toes underneath for downward facing dog, walking our hands in towards our feet, forward fold, and slowly rolling up. Raising our hands up overhead, swan diving into a forward fold, walking our hands forward into plank, coming into hovering, coming into upward facing dog, tucking our toes underneath for downward facing dog, walking our hands in towards our feet, forward fold, and slowly rolling up. Last time, hands up overhead. Swan diving into a forward fold. Walking our hands forward into plank. Bending at the elbows for hovering. Coming into upward facing dog. Tucking our toes underneath for downward facing dog. And walking our hands in towards our feet, forward fold. And slowly rolling up. All right, so from there, we're going to start to come into the warriors. So we're going to start with our right leg in front. Our left foot is back at about a 45-degree angle. We have our hands up overhead for warrior one. Opening up to the side for warrior two. Turning the palm over, reaching back for reverse warrior. Coming back into warrior two. And back into warrior one. Back into warrior two. Turning our hand and reaching backwards for reverse warrior. Coming back into warrior two. And back into warrior one. Warrior two. Turning our hand over, reaching back for reverse warrior. Back into warrior two. And back into warrior one. From here, we're going to go ahead, step that right foot back. We're going to come into, oops, let me move since I have something blocking my foot. We're going to come into warrior three. And coming back up. So now we can do the warriors on the left leg. Coming into warrior one. Into warrior two. Turning that hand over, reaching back for reverse warrior. Back into warrior two. And raising our hands up overhead for warrior one. Coming back into warrior two. Turning the hand over, reaching back for reverse warrior. Coming back into warrior two. And back into warrior one. Warrior two. Turning that hand over, coming into reverse warrior. Coming back into warrior two. And back into warrior one. We're going to step that left foot back just a bit so we can come into warrior three, having our hands up overhead. We're going to come forward. And releasing. We're going to go ahead and come into tree, having the middle of our foot on our ankle. We're going to start with our hands in prayer position. Now we're going to go ahead, raise our arms up to come into tree. This is one of our balance positions. And releasing the hands, releasing that foot. We're going to switch sides. So our left foot is on our ankle, coming into prayer hands. Reaching our arms up overhead to come into full tree. And releasing the hands, releasing the foot. This time we're going to go ahead and bring our foot to our calf, coming into that prayer position with our hands. Then reaching up overhead, just like a big tree. Releasing the hands, releasing that leg, switching sides, bringing that foot to our calf, bringing our hands into prayer position. Then reaching up overhead, just like a tree. Releasing those arms, releasing that position. Now we're going to go ahead, bring our foot into our thigh, bringing our hands into prayer position. Bringing our arms overhead for full tree. Relaxing those arms, bringing that leg down, switching sides, bringing our left foot into our right thigh, bringing our hands into prayer position. Bringing our arms overhead for full tree. Releasing those arms, releasing that leg. We're going to go ahead and bring our right leg over our left, bending our knee, wrapping that right leg around it. We're going to bring that left arm underneath the right to come into eagle. This is another balanced position. And releasing that, we're going to go ahead, bring that left leg over the right, bringing it around. Bringing the the right arm underneath the left. Coming into eagle. Releasing that positioning, we're going to go ahead and come into the yoga twerk. So we're going to come down into a squat, pop that butt up, and come into a reverse good morning. Squat, pop, and up. Squat, pop, and up. We're going to flow in this for a little bit. We got 3 more. And up. We're going to go ahead and come down into tabletop position for cat-cow. Breathing in and exhaling, flowing with your breath. Continuing in cat-cow for a little bit longer. Returning to tabletop position, we're going to go ahead, we're going to extend our right leg, and we're going to lift up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switching legs, extending that left leg out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switching legs once again, extending that right leg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switching legs again, extending the left leg out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Coming into a seated position, we're going to go ahead and stack our knees, beginning with our right stacked over our left. We're going to bring our hands into that prayer position, and we're going to turn to the right, having our left elbow on the outside of our right thigh. Feeling a nice stretch in our hips and our bottom. Coming back into center, we're going to go ahead, stack our knees again, but this time the left is going to be on top of the right. We're going to have our hands in prayer position, and we're going to turn to the left-hand side, aiming to have our hands in the middle of our chest. Coming back into center, we're going to go ahead and lie down on the ground with our knees bent. Coming into bridge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pushing through the feet. 7, 8, 9, and 10. From here, we're going to go ahead and come into wheel. Coming back down into that bridge, we're going to go to 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. We're going to go ahead and come back into wheel. Coming back down, we're going to come into that bridge flow, and this time we're going to do 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Coming back into wheel. And coming back down, we're going to go ahead and extend our left leg, pulling our right knee in, lifting that left heel off of the floor, off of the mat, and bringing it back down, up and down, up and down, up and down, repeating, flowing. Really pulling that knee in towards your chest, exaggerating the lift. So that just means raising your leg a little bit higher. We're going to go ahead and switch legs. So pulling that left knee in towards the chest. We're going to lift that heel up off the ground and down. And keep on repeating. Making the movement larger as far as lifting our leg goes. Bringing both of our knees in towards our chest. Breathing nice and slow. Coming into happy baby. Pulling on our big toe, bringing our knees in towards our armpits. Bringing those legs down, our knees are bent. We're going to bring our hands interlaced behind our head. We're going to go ahead and bring our knees in. Extend our legs out as we lift our head up, lower, and lower our heads. Up, lower the heels down, lower our heads as we bring our knees back in. Two more. Coming back into knees to chest, interlacing our fingers below our knees. Taking nice deep breaths. Coming into happy baby. Pulling our knees in towards our armpits. Releasing our feet, keeping them bent, interlacing our hands behind our head, bringing those knees in, extending, lifting up our head, lowering the heels, and down. Going ahead and interlacing our hands right below our knees, coming into knees to chest. Coming into happy baby, bringing our knees in towards our armpits. Releasing the feet, keeping the knees bent, interlacing our hands behind our head, bringing our knees in, lift and extend, lower and down. And perfect. We're going to go ahead and turn over to come into Sphinx, which is very similar to upward facing dog, except our legs are more wide. We're pushing through the palms of our hands, keeping our shoulders down, away from our ears, getting a nice stretch in our abdomen. Coming back into child's pose. Bringing our knees underneath our hips to come into puppy dog. Coming back into Sphinx. Coming back into Child's Pose. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Bringing our knees and our hips in alignment. Coming into Puppy Dog. We're going to go ahead, come into tabletop, only to go ahead and bring our right foot forward to come into lizard. So we're going to come onto our forearms. Getting a nice stretch on the inside of our thigh. Going ahead, coming to the outside edge of that foot, opening up the knee. Bringing the foot back flat. Then coming into half split. Allowing the body to fall forward. Coming back into lizard. Opening up our knee. You might feel some pops. That's completely normal. Coming back onto our foot and coming back into half split. Bringing that right foot back. Stepping the left foot forward. Coming into lizard on our left leg. Having our forearms on the mat. Opening up our knee, coming onto the edge of our foot. And like I said, it's completely normal to have little pops. Just don't do anything that is painful. Coming back onto our feet, coming back into half split. Coming back into lizard, bringing our forearms to the ground. Opening up our knee, coming onto the outside of our left foot. Coming back onto our foot, coming back into half split. From here, we're going to go ahead, come into Shavasana. So we're going to lay on our back with our feet spread out and our arms nice and flat against the mat with our palms facing the sky or facing the ceiling, wherever it is you're doing this. Breathing in through our nose and out through our mouth. I want you to go ahead and focus on one thing that you're grateful for. I want you to feel that energy of gratitude in the palm of your hands. Feeling grateful for the opportunity for this practice. Gaining in strength, flexibility, and mobility. And coming up into a seated position. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me for today's live stream. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and or join the membership as it is popping off. And I'll see you on the next live stream. Be well, stay wild as well.